Hello friends, it's Luke the Gamer Duke. I enjoy playing, dissecting, and talking about video games. Today in Diablo 2 Resurrected, I want to talk about normal unique weapons. But not just talk about them, I want to rank them. I want to judge each one based on the tier system. What rankings will your favorites receive? Let's go find out. First off, let's briefly go over the ranking criteria. The ranking range will be from S tier down to E tier and are as follows. S tier is Beast Normal and will carry well into Nightmare. A tier are great items for Normal but might fall off going into Nightmare. B tier are solid pieces and can finish Normal in some fashion. C tier items will have decent damage or affixes, but maybe not in tandem with each other or might not be able to finish Normal. D tier items will be decent for their level, but may fall off going into the next act. And E tier items will essentially be worthless by their own level. I tried making the tier criteria so early weapons have a chance to make it out of last place, while higher level weapons can still be eligible for a lower ranking. The rankings will rely on how the combination of damage output and affixes work together, with damage output being a bit more important than affixes. All the affixes in the world matter not when you can't damage anyone. Caster weapons, though, will be judged straight up by affixes. And to keep these rankings interesting, scattered, but also somewhat organized, I'll split them out by item type, then go in alphabetical order rather than by straight up level required. Alright, that's enough of an intro. There's 70 normal uniques to go through, so let's get into it. Here we have our ranking chart, and underneath we have all our weapons. And we'll start off with axes because axes are cooler than swords. First up, Axe of Fetchmar. Its freeze target and fast attack speed will keep it hacking for a bit, and plus 50 cold res is a huge number. But it is lower end and that DPS will fall off sooner rather than later. So we start with a D tier. Bladebone Double Axe. It has decent fire damage and attack speed with extra damage to undead, but its damage for its level is shameful. D tier. Brainhue Great Axe. Here we have a hack and slasher, decent enhanced damage with 14 to min damage and solid fire damage, with great added mana and sweet mana leech. It is catered for mana heavy skills, but will keep you slashing away for a while. A tier. The Chieftain Battle Axe. This is a straight chopper. A flat 100% enhanced damage with attack speed, solid lightning damage, mana after kill, and includes some all-res. Chieftain's DPS will keep you hacking away well into Nightmare, and the Tabar's value increase could make it worth an upgrade. We have our first S tier. Deathspade Axe. It has some solid affixes, plus 8 to min damage, percent bonus to attack rating, and blinds target with mana per kill, but the damage will struggle post Act 1, so D tier. Gore Shovel Broadaxe. It's not too shabby, plus 9 to min damage and mega open wounds, great attack speed with plus 25 strength. Its enhanced damage is a bit shallow, but its overall DPS is pretty solid. B tier. The Gnasher Hand Axe. Here we have a troll item if I've ever seen one. Crushing Blow and open wounds on the lowest end axe in the game. The hilarious part is, Crushing Blow will actually take it further than you might think, but not that far. D tier. The Humongous Giant Axe. The big daddy of the group. Great enhanced damage with added base damage, great added strength, and 33% crushing blow. It is slow to swing with an added 20% to requirements, but its damage output cannot be denied. It will function in Nightmare, and the Ancient Axe upgrade will double its damage. In the hands of some attack speed, it will be a straight up monster slayer. Absolute S tier. Rhaegscar War Axe. This is a DPS sleeper. It gets some of the best normal enhanced damage with crazy AS pushing it to very fast, with awesome poison res. It doesn't do much else, but the DPS is certainly there, so it goes A tier. And the final axe, Skull Splitter Military Axe. They have great speed, but damage usually lacks hard. Lightning damage compensates a bit, and blinds target, open wounds, and mana regen are great, but you're not taking this into the Chaos Sanctuary, so D tier goes. And moving on to swords, it doesn't start well, with Black Tongue Bastard Sword. It has decent poison damage and great poison res. Prevent monster heal is nice. but it's mostly a bust with its poor enhanced damage and nothing else but poison to compensate. You couldn't pay me to swap to this. We have our first E tier. Blood Crescent Scimitar. If open wounds, attack speed, life leech, added life, and all res were on anything higher end, we'd have something to consider here, but on a scimitar, it'll keep you alive just enough for Act 1, but its damage will be snuffed after that. D tier. Coleman's Point Warsword. It has the best damage for one-handed swords, along with added attack speed, hit recovery, and some poison reduction, and adds +1 to all skills. Its damage could be a little better for its level, but its affixes make up for it. It's A tier, but more toward the end. Gleam Scythe Falchion. There are a couple decent affixes, including added cold damage, attack speed, and great added mana. It has good damage and affixes and will slash for a little while. So it goes to C tier. Griswold's Edge Broadsword. Great enhanced damage with good fire damage, a bit of attack speed and rating, with added strength and knockback. It has solid affixes to complement good damage. It goes to B tier. Hellplague Longsword. A very strong weapon with great added fire damage and some poison damage, +2 to fire skills, and good life and mana leech, not to mention solid enhanced damage. Don't sleep on this one. A tier. Hina Mill's Owl Giant Sword. It has solid damage and attack rating with great fire damage and added mana. Its primary focus is the +6 to Holy Fire, catered for a pally, but any melee can make use of the He-Man sword. A tier, with the caveat being S tier for pallies. Patriarch Greatsword. The granddaddy slasher of the group. It has great damage, blinds target, adds strength with a bit of damage reduction. 100% gold find is give or take, but the damage output is there. It would also fit great for the Act 5 Merc. The required strength may nuke its upgrade potential, but it'll carry into Nightmare. S tier. Ripsaw Flamberge. It's short and destructively sweet. Solid damage of +15 to max, making for great DPS, with constant open wounds and some mana leech. Another great pick for the Act 5 Merc. Great for fast and heavy damage. S tier. Rixox's Keen Short Sword. Yet again, we have Crushing Blow on a literal beginner item. However, the fact it only requires level 2, along with its other affixes, leaves it much better than its lower end peers, so we can actually jump this up to a C tier. Shadowfang Two-Handed Sword. Some very solid affixes with good cold damage, great life and mana leech, and decent cold res, but the damage output is on the lower end for two-handers. You'll stay alive, but so will your enemies. C tier. Skewer of Krynith's Saber. There's just not much here. Ignore target defense is nice, and so are the added attributes, but its lack of damage and offensive affixes leaves it down in E tier. And the final sword, Soulflake Claymore. It is incredibly impressive for its level, very much on par with the higher end two-hander damage, with added attack speed, good life and mana leech, and a tiny bit to all res. I dabbled with this for a while. It just misses S, but it'll go to the top spot in A tier. Alright, now for the blunts. No, not that kind. First up, Bloodrise Morningstar. It is stacked with affixes, including some attack speed, open wounds, life leech, and a solid 50% bonus to attack rating, +3 to Paladin Sacrifices give or take, but its damage and affixes make it a solid one-hander. B tier. Bone Snap Maul. Here we are, the monster. Arguably the best normal unique in the game. It gets the highest enhanced damage by a country mile, with only one weapon even coming close. It also jumps cold and fire res up by 30, which are solid numbers, but the real focus is at 40% crushing blow. I actually tested Bone Snap in another video, and the CB odds being just shy of a coin toss will take this a long way, even without upgrading. You will likely want something to counter the slow AS, but if you do, it will shatter everything. Then upgrade it, and it'll shatter even more. Top of S tier, no question. Crush Flange Mace. Here we have yet another lowly weapon with Crushing Blow. They love doing this. It also includes knockback, added strength, and awesome fire res. It could be considered on par with Rixot's, but I would say it's slightly worse at a higher level. So it'll go to D tier, but we can put it a little bit toward the front. Fellow Club. Lowest of the low here. Poor damage and mismatched affixes. Unless you really need lightning res, you'll be replacing this before you reach the jail. No surprise. E tier. General's Tando Ligoth Flail. Now here's a wacky one. The enhanced damage with the 1 to 20 base damage and attack speed as one of the best one-handed potential DPSers. It also includes some mana leech and slows target by 50%, which is mega useful versus bosses. However, its vastly wide damage range will hold it back to B tier, but toward the front. Ironstone Warhammer. If you're looking for the highest one-handed damage dealer, this is it. It gets great enhanced damage with a bit of lightning damage, solid attack rating, and added strength. It is slow in its speed, but if you have anything to compensate, this will bring the pain. This is an A tier weapon. Nell Striker Scepter. And again, Crushing Blow on a beginner item. Granted, this one is a bit better in damage. It also adds some poison and fire res, and a bit to mana. Same as Rixot's, its affixes and damage for its level compared to similar weapons will move it up to C tier. Rust Handle Grand Scepter. It's an interesting one. It's catered for a melee pally with extra damage to undead, life leech, and also includes +1 pally skills, +3 thorns, +1 to 3 vengeance. Its face value DPS won't go very far, but its included paladin skills could justify hanging on to it slightly longer than a melee pally otherwise would. It'll go to C tier, but more toward the front. Steel Driver Great Maul. This guy right here, is hilariously fun to use. It only does damage, but boy oh boy does it do damage. Its crazy enhanced damage along with 40% attack speed outputs the best average DPS of all normal uniques, and lowering its requirements by 50% means you can equip it at a much lower level and with much less required strength. When I tested Bone Snap, I actually compared it against Steel Driver, and Steel Driver gave Bone Snap a danger close run for its money. It blasted Nightmare, upgraded and then blast through hell. Steel Driver goes right behind Bone Snap, top of S tier. Stormeye War Scepter. This is one to watch for if you're a Shakadin. It adds +1 Fist of Heavens, +3 Holy Shock, and +3 to 5 Resist Lightning. It also includes solid life regen. Its damage output is quite shallow, but I'll grant this one is primarily built for casting, and will keep a Shock Pally happy for a while. A tier. And lastly for the blunts, Stout Nail Spike Club. Second lowest of the low. It simply can't hang. Sure, it has thorns, but, I mean, come on. Poor damage and poor fixes compared to its peers. E tier. And now for the daggers. First up is the Diggler Dirk. It's super fast with some solid cold and fire res, added dex, and ignores target defense. Its affixes make up for its lack of damage, but only a bit. It stays in D tier. Gold Dagger. Designed specifically for Magic Find and nothing else. But the Magic Find number is one of the best, so we'll just throw it up to S tier. The Jade Tando Chris. There are some crazy affixes here. It has insane poison damage for normal, doing 45 poison DPS, and it is the only singular item which maxes out poison res, and has great attack rating. It's built for a poison necro, but can be beneficial for all melees. B tier. Spectral Shard Blade. This is a caster dagger, damage be damned, and caster dagger it is with plus 50% caster rate, which is crazy. It also adds great mana and some all res. It's built for blasting off as many castings as fast as possible. A tier. Moving on to spears. Keep in mind, spears can be considered for the Act 2 Merc. First up is Blood Thief Brandystock. The fastest swinging also outputs the lowest end damage, but the DPS works out pretty well. It also gets added strength and life, great life leech, and open wounds. So we'll put it up to C tier. The Dragon Shank Spear. The plus 10 min damage means it does nearly max damage every hit. Granted, it's not very much damage. Some added fire damage is nice, but a socketed spear might actually work better. E tier. Lance of the Yagai Speedum. This is an interesting guy. There is no enhanced damage, but added lightning damage and insane 40% AS jumps the DPS up significantly. Adding on 15 to all res, it'll go for a bit. B tier. Razor-Tine Trident. These things always look cool as shit to me, and it's actually not terrible. Slows target, drops target defense, adds strength and dex, and added attack speed puts it to very fast, increasing DPS. So it goes up to C tier. Tanner Gorod Pike. The top-notch stabber, no surprise, has top-notch damage. Also great fire damage, fire res, plus to max fire res, and added life. The very slow AS is quite unfortunate and really holds it back though. Damage into the 100s will work in Nightmare, but because you'll need added AS to not get interrupted, it'll stay out of S, but it is front of the line A tier. And now for the poles. Also note, polearms can be considerations for the Act 2 Mercenary. And first up is the Battle Branch Poleaxe. A straight up life leeching DPSer with great added attack speed, some attack rating, and dex. This will hack away longer than you might think. A tier. Dimok's Hugh Bardiche. Similar to the Tandolai, it is an absolute coin toss for damage output. All you get is DPS potential and some dex, but at level 8 can be very solid, though if no other fixes in such low potential, it'll stay out of D, but at the very tail end of C tier. The Grim Reaper Warscythe. Here is another straight DPSer, and the best damage for normal poles. Its shallow enhanced damage is replaced with plus 15 to min damage and guaranteed deadly strike. It also prevents monster heal and leeches mana. Its fast AS turns it into a DPS machine. Total S tier weapon. Soul Harvest Scythe. It has some pretty good affixes, including open wounds, great mana leech, and solid all res. Its damage is fair, and with its fast AS, the DPS will keep up for a bit. C tier. Steel Gold Volge. A couple notable but lower value affixes, including Deadly Strike, All Res, and Monster Flea, which can be hit or miss. Deadly Strike makes up for its DPS a bit, but not very much. C tier. Wostave Halberd. One of the most stacked normal uniques, including open wounds, slows target, blinds target, freezes target, minus enemy defense per hit, and prevents monster heal. The only drawback is its absolute pitiful enhanced damage, which has always disappointed me. But there is damage to be had, and the affixes are pretty insane. So, solid A tier. Alright, getting into missiles. Keep in mind, bows can be considered for the Act 1 Mercenary. First up, Blastbark Long Warbow. If you're using an Explodizon, Blastbark is what you're looking for. It has great enhanced damage and a bit of mana leech, as well as +1 to all Amazon skills, and +2 more to Exploding Arrow. S tier. Doomslinger Repeating Crossbow. This is a straight up machine gun. 30% AS added to its base means you'll be firing bolts faster than you can count. With 35 piercing, added life, and +1 to Amazon skills, it will carry a strafer far. The Chuko News damage base is almost tripled and actually fires faster. Doomslinger would be worth an upgrade. Absolute S tier. Hellcast Heavy Crossbow. Another very solid missile. Fires level 5 explosives and more added fire damage to it, along with good enhanced damage, attack speed, and added fire res and max fire res. Even though it does lack piercing, it is still a very solid item and will carry into Nightmare. S tier. Hellclap Short Warbow. It has mostly notable affixes, with great fire damage, a bit of AS, some attack rating, +1 to fire skills, great fire res, and added dex. However, it does lack in damage compared to other missiles for its level, so it'll hold back to B tier. Icar String Crossbow. The primary draw here is the 50 piercing. The 20 AS will make it very fast with solid added dex. It's not bad, and it'll be enough for C tier. Lead Crow Light Crossbow. It's not too bad for its level, including Deadly Strike, solid poison res with some added life and dex, but decent for its level will only take it to D tier. Pluck Eye Shortbow. Unless you really need some super early mana leech, there is nothing to note here. E tier. Ravenclaw Longbow. For an early bow, it is actually quite solid. 50% bonus to attack rating is great, and level 3 exploders will keep enemies dropping for a while, but not forever, so it has to stay back to C tier. Rogue's Bow Composite Bow. It's designed as a lower level Doomslinger and fires like crazy, but comes up short everywhere else, with no piercing, slower fire rate than Doom, and no plus to skills and no stats. Even with Deadly Strike, its damage is very shallow for its level, so it goes down to E tier. Storm Strike Short Battle Bow. The piercing and added lightning damage are solid and has good lightning res, but its damage for its level, or compensation for it, is just not there for this one. D tier. Witherstring Hunter's Bow. Firing magic arrows is nice to conserve arrow stock, and with the added AS it fires very quickly, but that's all it has, and a socketed bow might be better. Another E tier. Weisendraw Long Battle Bow. Catered for cold with solid minus enemy cold res, adding cold res to yourself along with great added mana and added AS. The magic arrows are give or take, but exploiting cold damage will go for a while, so it'll go to B tier. And now the final category, casters. And starting with wands, Gravenspine Bone Wand. There are several affixes, but most are for melee for some reason. The added mana and +2 to necro skills are its only necro highlights, but they are good numbers and can be used until you find a higher end multi-skill wand. B tier. Maelstrom U Wand. It includes several +1 to 3 skills, including Iron Maiden, Amp Damage, Terror, and Corpse Explosion. +40 lightning res is a great number, and it's topped off with good caster rate. Its affixes are great, but its range and skills will keep it down to B tier. Torch of Iro Wand. The +1 to necro skills is a shallow number for your main, and the added mana and regen are also small numbers, and it will likely be overtaken by any other wand offering higher skill values. E tier. Lament Grim Wand. Easily the best normal wand with +2 to necro skills and the caster rate, with solid added mana. It also gets +2 to Crepify and +3 Terror. Necros can use this one for a while. S tier. And finally, Sorceress Staves. First up, Baneash Shortstaff. A very solid early fire staff with +5 to Firebolt and +2 Warmth, which is helpful in early game, along with good added mana and crazy fire res. It's good for a while, but will be replaced. C tier. The Iron Jang Bong Warstaff. It's all over the place. You get +2 to sorcerer skills and some caster rate, but then a scattered +3 Frost Nova, 2 Blaze, and +2 Nova, then some useless melee affixes. However, the sheer stacking of skills cannot be denied, and will be very useful if you're a Nova Source. So we'll put this up in S tier. The Salamander Battle Staff. A very solid staff for fire focus. It provides +2 to fire skills, +3 to warmth, 2 to fireball, 1 to firewall, good fire res, and per usual some useless melee affixes. It's not bad, but will likely be overshadowed with higher end plus to skill stabs sooner rather than later. B tier. Serpent Lord Longstaff. I don't know who this is built for. A low-level staff for heavy mana melees in poison areas. I guess. I just don't even know. Can anyone name a melee weapon on this chart you would want to swap out for this? I guess I'd rather have a club. Back of E tier. And the final weapon! Spire of Lazarus Gnarled Staff. It's designed for lightning with +1 to sorcerer skills, +1 to chain lightning, +2 more to lightning, and +3 static field. along with awesome mana regen, added energy, damage reduction, and insane lightning res. The mana perks and plus the skills are well worth its use for a while. So we'll end the entire normal unique rankings with an A tier. Well, there we are. All normal unique weapons, ranked. What do you think? Do you mostly agree or mostly disagree? Where did your favorites place? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. Shout out to tiermaker.com for the open source ranker lists, and check out the link in the description to do your own normal unique weapon tier list. And leave an image in the comments of what you came up with. If you enjoyed this tier ranking, consider hitting that like button. And remember to subscribe, as rankings for normal unique armor, sets, rune words, and exceptionals are upcoming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Adios.